The Valari Academy stood on a high plateau, covered with silver grass that moved like water in the wind. Every student knew the rules posted on the tall crystal walls. But one rule shined brighter than the rest. Never trust a human. Lyra had grown up with those words. She had heard them from teachers, mentors, and even from her own parents. Humans were known to be unpredictable. They acted fast, spoke boldly, and walked into danger without stopping to think. The Valari believed that humans brought trouble wherever they went. Lyra never questioned the rule. She was a disciplined cadet, always focused on her training. She spent her mornings in the combat arena, her afternoons studying strategy, her evenings walking alone through the academy's pathways. She liked order. She liked peace. She liked rules, but everything began to change on the day she found the human. It started with a strange sound. Something like a low pulse coming from the canyon just beyond the academy grounds. Lyra was on a patrol shift, walking near the boundary line. She held her scanner with steady hands, checking the area for any unusual activity. At first, she thought the sound was only the wind moving through the rocks. But then she heard a second sound, quick footsteps, far too close to the canyon edge. Lyra frowned. No one was allowed near the canyon. The ground there was unstable, and the deeper tunnels beneath it were uncharted. Only authorized teams were allowed to explore the region. Students were warned again and again to stay away. She moved toward the noise, her feet quiet on the narrow trail. The air grew cooler as she approached the edge. The canyon stretched below her like a deep scar in the earth, filled with shadows and echoing wind. Then she saw him, a young human trainee. Dark-haired, wearing a half-damaged academy uniform, stood near the cliff. His back was turned as he adjusted a small device in his hands. Lyra recognized him immediately. Evan. Yeah, the only human currently training at the Valari Academy. She froze. Of all the places he could be. "Why here, Evan?" she called out, keeping her voice firm and steady. "You are in a restricted zone." He turned sharply, surprised. His eyes widened when he saw her, but instead of panicking, he gave a small, awkward smile. "Oh, hey. I didn't think anyone was patrolling this side today. It does not change the fact that this area is off limits," Lyra said as she approached him. "You should not be here." "I know," he admitted, "but I needed to check something. Just a quick reading." Humans always spoke like that, openly, casually, as if rules were only suggestions. Lyra kept a strict expression on her face, even though her curiosity was growing. "What are you checking?" she asked. Evan hesitated, glancing at the ground. I'm not totally sure yet, but I picked up a strange energy pulse during my morning run. Something strong, something unusual." Lyra looked at him carefully. Humans were known for sensing things the Valari couldn't. Some said it came from their strange brains. Others said it came from their unusual instincts. Still, the Academy rarely relied on human senses. Valar technology was considered far more advanced. "You detected an energy pulse without equipment?" Lyra asked. He lifted a small device. "I confirmed it with equipment later. The pulse was here, and it's getting stronger." Before Lyra could answer, the ground beneath them trembled. Not violently, but enough to make the stones shift under their feet. A few pebbles rolled off the edge and fell into the shadows below. Evan stepped backward, too close to the cliff's edge. "Stop," Lyra said sharply. But before he could move, the narrow ledge under his boots cracked. The rock split with a loud echo. Evan's foot slipped. His eyes widened in shock as the ground broke beneath him. His body pitched forward, and he began to fall toward the canyon. Lyra didn't think. She didn't calculate. She didn't consider the rule. She leaped. Her hand shot out and grabbed Evan's wrist before he dropped. His weight pulled her halfway over the edge, but she held tight. Dust filled the air as broken rock tumbled into the deep canyon. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Evan looked up at her with wide, stunned eyes. "You caught me." Lyra tightened her grip. "I was not going to watch you fall." With a quick, practiced motion, she pulled him forward onto solid ground. They both stumbled away from the edge, breathing hard. The canyon wind howled below them as if disappointed to lose a visitor. Evan sat down on a rock, rubbing his wrist. "Thank you," he said softly. "Really?" Lyra looked at him with a mix of annoyance and concern. "You put yourself in danger." "You put me in danger? Why would you come here alone?" "Because I felt something important," he answered. "That is not a reason to break rules." "Be not to you," he said. "But if something is wrong, someone needs to check it." Lyra crossed her arms. "You should have reported your findings first." "I tried," Evan said. "But the system said the pulse level wasn't high enough for a formal alert. And no one listens to trainees anyway." Lyra paused. She could understand that. She had also been ignored many times as a young cadet. But this felt different. "Show me," she said. Evan blinked. "Show you what?" "The energy reading," Lyra said. "If it is real, I must confirm it." He nodded and turned on his device. A soft blue light glowed and scanned the air around the cliff. The meter jumped almost immediately. "That's very strong," Lyra murmured. "Stronger than our sensors detected yesterday?" "Exactly," Evan said. "It's growing faster than anything natural." Lyra stepped closer, examining the data. The numbers pulsed in a rhythm, slow but increasing. Something under the canyon was active. Something old. Something hidden. She lowered the device slowly. "Why did you not tell anyone about this?" "I tried telling Instructor Veras," Evan said. "But he just told me to focus on basic training and stop worrying about things outside my level." Lyra sighed. Instructor Varas was known for being strict and dismissive. He did not trust human instincts, and you chose to investigate alone instead of waiting. She asked. Evan scratched the back of his neck. "Yeah, I know that part was stupid, at least you admit it." "But I wasn't trying to break rules," Evan said. "I was trying to prevent a problem before it becomes serious." Lyra studied him for a moment. His eyes were honest. His posture showed no fear, only a desire to understand what was happening. Still, she knew what the Academy expected of her. "Evan," she said, keeping her voice calm but formal, "you must return to the Academy with me. I have to report this." He stiffened. "Will I be punished?" "You entered a restricted zone," Lyra replied. "There will be consequences." Evan let out a breath. "Well, I guess I deserve that." But Lyra added, "I will also report the energy pulse. The Council may take your discovery seriously once they see the data." Evan nodded slowly. "Thank you." They began walking back toward the Academy. The sky above them shifted from soft blue to warm gold as the sun lowered. Birds with silver wings crossed the air, leaving faint trails of light. For a while, they walked in silence. Lyra tried to ignore the strange feeling growing in her chest. She had broken no rules, yet something inside her felt conflicted. Helping a human was not wrong, but many Valari would not see it that way. She glanced at Evan. He walked quietly beside her, holding his device close. His steps were careful now, as if he understood the importance of every move. "Lyra," he said suddenly. "Yes." "Why did you save me?" he asked softly. "I mean, I know you had to, but I just wonder what you were thinking in that moment." Lyra considered the question. "I was not thinking," she answered honestly. "I only acted." Evan smiled faintly. "That sounds a lot like something a human would say." Lyra almost smiled back, but stopped herself. The rule echoed in her mind. Never trust a human. Yet today, she had grabbed his hand without hesitation. Maybe rules were not as simple as she once thought. As they reached the Academy gates, Lyra felt the wind shift again. A faint pulse moved through the air. Almost too soft to notice, but Evan noticed it. His eyes widened. "It's getting stronger," he whispered. Lyra felt a chill. The canyon was hiding something, and now it was waking up. The Academy courtyard felt unusually quiet when Lyra and Evan returned. Evening light spread across the crystal towers, painting them in soft gold. Students passed by in small groups, talking about classes, training drills, and upcoming examinations. No one noticed the tension in Lyra's posture or the worry on Evan's face. Lyra led him through the main gate, her eyes fixed straight ahead. She felt the weight of responsibility pressing against her shoulders. She needed to report the energy pulse. She needed to explain why she was with Evan in a restricted area. And she needed to make sure the council didn't dismiss the matter simply because it came from a human trainee. Evan walked a few steps behind her, silent and thoughtful. His device hummed quietly in his hand, still detecting faint pulses from the canyon, when they reached the main hall. Lyra stopped. "Wait here," she said. "I must inform the council that we have returned." Evan nodded, trying to hide his nervousness. "Okay, I'll stay near the wall." Lyra stepped inside the hall. The tall ceiling and wide marble floor made her footsteps echo loudly. She found Instructor Varus speaking with two senior officers. His sharp eyes turned toward her immediately. "Cadet Lyra," Varus said, "you were scheduled for patrol duty. Why have you returned early, and why is the human trainee with you?" Lyra kept her voice steady. "There is something important to report, Instructor. The energy readings near the canyon have changed." The officers exchanged curious looks. Varus raised an eyebrow. "Changed? Our last scan showed nothing unusual." "That is no longer the case," Lyra said. "The human detected a pulse. I confirmed it with his device. The readings are rising." Varus frowned. "The human detected it?" "Yes," Lyra replied. His expression tightened. "Cadet, human instincts are not reliable. You know that?" Lyra stood firm. "The device confirmed it, and the ground near the canyon edge is unstable. There was a small collapse during our patrol." Varus paused for a long moment. Then he said, "Bring the trainee inside." Lyra went to get Evan. He followed her into the hall, standing respectfully behind her. His grip on his device tightened when the officers turned their attention to him. Vera spoke directly to him. "Trainee Evan, explain your claim." Evan nodded quickly. "This morning I sensed something strange during my run. It felt like a vibration, short and sharp, almost like a signal. I double-checked with my device, and the pulse was real. So I followed the readings to the canyon." Varus crossed his arms. "You entered a restricted zone without permission." Evan lowered his head. "I did. And I'm sorry for that," Lyra added. The ground collapsed under him. "I pulled him back before he fell." The officers whispered among themselves. Varus looked troubled. Evan held up his device. "The pulse is still active. If you want, I can show you the data." After a moment of hesitation, Varus nodded. "Very well." Evan pressed a button, and a soft blue light projected the readings. The numbers climbed steadily, slow but undeniable. One of the officers leaned closer. "These levels. This is not natural." Varus stared at the projection for a long time. Then he sighed. "We will conduct an official scan. Cadet Lyra, take Evan to the auxiliary lab for examination." "Examination?" Evan repeated, confused. "To confirm that your senses are not causing false interpretation," Varus said, though his tone had softened. Lyra bowed respectfully. "Yes, Instructor." She guided Evan out of the hall and toward the auxiliary lab located in a quiet wing of the academy. As the doors closed behind them, Evan let out a long breath. "I feel like I just walked into a test I wasn't prepared for," he muttered. "You did well?" Lyra said. The council listened. "Barely," Evan replied. "They looked at me like I was a strange creature." Lyra paused. "Humans are rare here. The Valari Academy accepts only one every 10 years. Evan nodded slowly. "Yeah, I know. Still feels weird sometimes." They entered the lab. Soft white lights illuminated the room. A few machines hummed quietly, waiting to be activated. A scanner chair stood in the center. Evan stared at it. "So, they're going to test my brain." "They will test your sensory responses," Lyra explained. "It is standard procedure." Evan sat down and tried to relax. Lyra activated the scanner. Gentle waves of light passed over him. After a few minutes, the machine beeped softly, showing a clear reading. Lyra studied the screen. Her eyes widened slightly. "What's wrong?" Evan asked. "Nothing is wrong," she said. "In fact, the results confirm your sensitivity. Your senses detected the pulse before the machine could." Evan gave a weak smile. So I'm not imagining things, Lyra said. You were correct. She shut down the scanner and handed him his device back. Evan looked both relieved and thoughtful. Lyra, he said quietly, can I tell you something? Something I haven't told the instructors? She turned toward him. Yes, he hesitated, gathering his thoughts. When humans sense things like energy shifts or changes in magnetic fields, it doesn't feel like numbers or data. It feels emotional, like pressure in the air or a tug inside your mind. Lyra listened carefully. Humans were known to have unusual intuition. But hearing it from Evan directly felt different. He continued, that pulse I felt. It wasn't just strong. It felt like a call, like something wanted attention. A call, Lyra repeated. Yes, he said. I know it sounds strange, but the pulse didn't feel random. It felt intentional. Lyra frowned slightly. Energy signals do not have intention. No, Evan said. But that's how it felt. Lyra watched him for a moment. Evan's eyes were calm, yet serious, not seeking attention, not exaggerating. She remembered the moment on the cliff. The vibration she felt, the sense of something stirring beneath the ground. Maybe Evan was right. Lyra walked to the window and looked toward the canyon, now hidden behind the academy walls. The memory of the pulse drifted through her mind like an echo. What if, she said slowly, there is something beneath the surface? Something old. Something we have not discovered yet, Evan nodded. That's what I think. Before Lyra could say more, the lab door opened. A senior officer stepped inside. The council has reviewed the initial data, he said. They want you both to return to the main hall. Lyra and Evan exchanged a quick glance. Something important was about to happen. They followed the officer back through the corridors. Students watched them with curious eyes, whispering softly. Some stepped aside respectfully as Lyra passed. Others stared at Evan with confusion or suspicion. When they entered the main hall again, council members stood in a half circle. Vera's motioned for them to step forward. We have reviewed your findings, Vera said. The pulse is real. Our long-range sensors detected a matching pattern deep beneath the canyon floor. Lyra felt a small shock run through her. It is not natural, Varys continued. It appears to be connected to an old underground structure, possibly pre-academy era. We have no records of it, Evan whispered. So something is actually down there, Varys said. And it is waking. The hall fell silent. Varys looked at both of them. Because you discovered the first signs. The council requests your assistance in a controlled investigation tomorrow morning. Lyra blinked. You want us to assist? Yes, Varys said. You confirmed the reading, and the human sensitivity may help detect changes faster than our instruments. Evan straightened, surprised and slightly proud. I'll do whatever is needed. Lyra bowed her head. I accept the assignment. Varys nodded. Prepare yourselves. This investigation may reveal something significant. As Lyra and Evan walked out of the hall together, the tension slowly lifted from their shoulders. But the silence between them was no longer heavy. It was thoughtful, filled with questions and possibilities. Evan glanced at Lyra. You know, I never expected the Academy to actually listen to me. They listened because you were correct, Lyra said. Evan smiled. Still, I'm glad you believed me. Lyra didn't answer immediately. She thought about the rule again. The old warning every Valerai learned growing up? Never trust a human. But today she had trusted one. And the Academy now depended on him. As they stepped outside into the cool night air, Lyra realized something important. Trust was not the danger. Ignorance was tomorrow. The truth beneath the canyon would finally begin to show itself, and nothing would ever be the same again. The next morning arrived with a cold wind sweeping across the Valerie Academy. A pale sunrise touched the tall crystal towers and spread a mix of soft pink and blue light over the grounds. Students were already gathering for their morning routines, but today something felt different. A quiet tension moved through the air like an invisible thread. Lyra walked toward the briefing hall with steady steps. She had not slept well. Thoughts about the pulse, the underground structure, and the council's decision kept returning to her mind. The rule about humans echoed in her memory too, but it felt weaker now, most like an old shadow. Evan walked beside her, his device clipped to his belt. His face looked calm, but his eyes carried the same worry as hers. He kept checking the horizon where the canyon lay hidden behind the academy walls. "You think it'll pulse again?" he asked softly. "I believe it will," Lyra replied. "But we must wait for the official scan." Evan nodded, although the tension in his shoulders showed he wasn't fully relaxed. When they entered the briefing hall, a group of cadets stood near the entrance. Some were whispering. Some stared at Lyra with surprise, others with confusion. But when they saw Evan, their expressions changed into uncertainty or mild suspicion. Lyra heard fragments of their whispers. "Is it true? She helped a human? I heard they were alone in the canyon. Why would she trust him? A human detecting something our scanners missed? Impossible." Lyra ignored the comments and walked straight ahead. Evan tried not to look bothered, but his pace slowed slightly. Inside, a holographic map glowed at the center of the hall. Instructor Vera's and 2 council members stood beside it. The map displayed the canyon from above and beneath it. Faint lines showed the rough shape of underground tunnels. Varus lifted his head as they approached. "Cadet Lyra, Trainee Evan, you are on time." "We are ready," Lyra said respectfully. Evan nodded. "Yes, Instructor." Council member pointed at the glowing map. "This is the first clear scan from last night. It confirms there is a sealed chamber beneath the canyon floor. Its walls are made of old Valari, stone much older than the academy itself." Lyra looked carefully at the map. The chamber was large, with curved lines around its edges, almost like a protective shell. Symbols appeared near the walls, but the scan couldn't fully read them. Evan stepped closer. "It looks like a dome, might be," the council member said, "but we do not know its purpose. It was buried long before this academy was built." Veras turned to Evan. "Did you feel anything unusual this morning?" Evan hesitated. "I felt a faint pressure, like something beneath the ground is waiting." The council members exchanged thoughtful glances. Vera said, "We will send a small investigation team to the canyon. Cadet Lyra, you will lead the team. Trainee Evan, you will assist with energy detection." Lyra bowed slightly. "Yes, Instructor." Evan nodded. "I'll do my best." As they walked out of the hall, the whispers outside grew louder. One cadet stepped forward, a tall Valari named Sarin, known for his strict discipline and sharp tongue. "Lyra," Sarin said, "is it true you risked your life to save the human yesterday?" Lyra kept her voice calm. "He was in danger." I responded. Sarin frowned. "Humans break rules without thinking. You should not have followed him." Evan opened his mouth as if to speak, but Lyra gently raised a hand, signaling him to stay calm. "Sarin," she said, "I did what any trained cadet should do. Saving a life is not a mistake." Some cadets around them murmured, unsure how to respond. Serene looked at Evan again, distrust clear in his eyes. "Just be careful," Serene said. "Humans bring trouble." With that, he walked away. Evan let out a slow breath. "He doesn't like me very much." "He doesn't know you," Lyra replied. "Fear often grows where understanding is missing." Evan gave her a small smile. "Thanks." They headed toward the equipment room to prepare for the investigation. Lyra selected climbing gear, light field scanners, and CUM devices. Evan checked his pulse detector again, adjusting its settings. When everything was ready, they met the 2 additional cadets assigned to their team, Relin and Mira. Both gave polite nods to Lyra, but their eyes lingered on Evan with uncertainty. "We will move carefully," Lyra said to them. "Stay alert." The team started toward the canyon. The path was narrow and quiet. Birds with silver feathers flew overhead, their soft calls echoing through the cool morning air. As they neared the canyon's edge, the ground felt different, heavier, as if the earth itself was holding a breath. Evan slowed down and closed his eyes for a moment. Lyra watched him. "What do you sense?" she asked. Evan opened his eyes. It's stronger than yesterday. The pulse is deeper now. Not louder, but steadier. Like a heartbeat. Relin exchanged a nervous look with Mira. A heartbeat? Are you sure? It's not alive, Evan said quickly. But the rhythm feels like something powering up. Lyra stepped closer to the edge and scanned the ground with her field device. The readings jumped slightly. There is activity underground, she confirmed. Let us proceed. The team followed a narrow path down to a lower ridge, carefully avoiding unstable rocks. The wind blew across the canyon, carrying dust and echoes. Halfway down, the ground gave a sudden tremor. Hold on, Lyra called. Everyone steadied themselves against the rock wall. Evan crouched, touching the ground lightly. The pulse. It's reacting. It feels like it knows we're here, Myra shivered. That's not possible. It is not alive, Lyra reminded them. But energy systems sometimes react to movement or sound. Evan nodded, though his expression remained tense. They reached a flat ledge overlooking the deeper part of the canyon. Lyra set up the field scanner. A blue glow rose around them as the machine mapped the underground area. The hologram slowly formed in front of them, a dome-shaped structure. Thick outer walls, strange symbols. And now, something new. Small lines of energy spreading outward, like growing roots. What is that? Rilan whispered. Lyra narrowed her eyes. Energy pathways. They were not active yesterday, Evan pointed at the center of the hologram. Look there. The heart of the dome glowed faintly. Something inside is powering up, Lyra murmured. The scanner beeped suddenly. A fresh pulse shook the ground, not enough to break anything, but strong enough to feel through their boots. Evan stepped backward instinctively. That's the strongest one yet. Lyra checked the readings. The pulse is still rising. We must return to the academy and report immediately. Before they could move, a soft hum drifted through the canyon. It touched the air like a quiet whisper. Everyone froze. Evan's eyes widened. Do you hear that? Relin nodded. It sounds almost like a voice. Lyra listened closely. The sound was not a voice, but it had a strange pattern, a rhythm that carried meaning without words. She looked at her team. We cannot stay here. Move slowly and carefully. The team climbed back up the path. Dust rose under their feet. The hum faded as they moved away from the canyon's edge. But the memory of it stayed sharp. When they finally reached the top, Lyra let out a steady breath. Return to the academy, she said. Walk quickly, but do not run. As they headed back, Evan walked beside her. Lyra, he said quietly. That hum, it was not random. It felt like communication. Lyra kept her eyes forward. I felt it too. You believe me? He asked. Yes, she said. I do. Evan looked relieved, yet still uneasy. What do you think is down there? Lyra thought for a moment before answering. I do not know. But whatever it has been sleeping for a long time. And now it is waking. They reached the academy gates. Students gathered as they returned, sensing that something unusual had happened. Saren stepped forward again, looking at them sharply. What did you find? Lyra answered calmly. Something old, something powerful, and something that cannot be ignored. Saren opened his mouth to question her further, but Lyra walked past him without stopping. Evan followed her. Inside the main hall, she reported everything to the council. The hum, the new energy pathways, the growing pulses. The council members listened in silence. When she finished, the room grew still. Varys finally spoke. This discovery is larger than we expected. We will prepare a deeper investigation. Cadet Lyra, Trainee Evan Yu, will remain involved. Devon blinked. Us. Yes, Varys said. The Academy must understand this, and your skills may be necessary. Lyra bowed. We understand. When they stepped outside again, the sky had darkened. Night clouds gathered slowly over the academy. Evan looked at Lyra. Are you scared? Lyra paused. I am not scared, but I am unsettled. Evan nodded. Same. The wind shifted suddenly, carrying a faint, distant sound from the canyon, a whisper, gentle, strange, unmistakable. Evan felt a chill. It's calling again. Lyra looked toward the canyon, her eyes firm. Then tomorrow, she said, we must answer. The next morning began with dark clouds hanging low over the Valerie Academy. The sky looked heavy, almost warning the students that something important was about to happen. A cool wind blew through the courtyards, rustling the academy flags and shaking the silver trees near the training grounds. Lyra stood near the briefing hall entrance, checking her equipment one last time. Her uniform was clean and firm, her scanner fastened to her belt, and her cum unit clipped to her wrist. She looked calm from the outside, but inside her mind, thoughts moved like restless waves. Today they would enter the canyon again. Today they would go deeper. Today they would face whatever was waking beneath the ground. Evan arrived a moment later, tightening the strap of his device. His face looked serious, but not fearful. He gave Lyra a small nod. Ready? He asked. As ready as we can be, she replied. The council members soon arrived, followed by Instructor Veras and 2 senior officers. A small transport drone hovered behind them, carrying supplies and tools. The holographic map appeared again, showing the underground dome and the newly glowing energy pathways. Veras pointed to a narrow tunnel on the map. We found an access route that leads directly to the outer wall of the structure. It is safe enough for a small team. Cadet Lyra, you will lead this mission. Trainee Evan, your sensitivity may help detect new changes. Lyra bowed her head. Yes, Instructor. Evan nodded as well. I'll try my best, the council member added. Your mission is simple. Reach the outer wall, record all readings, and return. You are not to enter the structure under any circumstances. Lyra and Evan agreed. Within minutes, they began the journey toward the canyon. Relin and Mira joined them again, carrying scanners and protective gear. The atmosphere was tense, but determined. As they walked, the wind at their backs seemed to push them forward, as if the canyon itself was waiting. Arriving at the canyon looked darker today. Shadows clung to the stone walls, and the air felt thicker. The moment the team stepped onto the first ridge, Lyra felt a faint vibration through her boots. Evan stopped walking. Lyra, yes? It's awake. She felt a chill. The pulse? It's stronger than ever, Evan said quietly. Steady. Like something preparing. Lyra looked at the others. Stay close. Move slowly. No sudden steps. The group followed a narrow path downward. Dust fell from the higher rocks as they walked, and the wind whistled through cracks in the stone. Halfway down, the pulse throbbed again deep, soft and rhythmic. Not dangerous, but impossible to ignore, Relin whispered. This doesn't feel like normal energy. Mira nodded nervously. It feels purposeful. Lyra did not argue. She felt the same. After a long descent, the path opened into a lower canyon floor. Ahead, hidden behind tall, curved rocks, a dark tunnel mouth waited. Old stone tiles lay partly buried beneath dust, suggesting that this place had been built long ago. This is the access route the council found. Lyra said. Evan took a slow breath. Feels like we're stepping into history. Lyra turned on a small lantern, and they entered the tunnel. Inside the tunnel, the air inside was cool and still. Their footsteps echoed off smooth, ancient walls. Strange symbols were carved into the stone, faded, cracked, but still visible. What do these symbols mean? Evan asked. Lyra traced her fingers gently along the wall. Old Valari script. Very old. Older than any record I know. Can you read it? Only some, she said. This one means guard. This one means safe passage. And this one? She paused. What? Evan asked. It means silence. Silence. Roland repeated. Why silence? Lyra didn't answer. She didn't know. They continued deeper. The pulse grew slightly stronger, humming through the tunnel like a low musical note. Evan stepped forward and closed his eyes briefly. It isn't angry or harmful, he said. Just active, Aware. Aware of what? Myra asked nervously. Evan shook his head. I don't know. After several minutes, the tunnel ended at a huge stone wall, a smooth dome-like surface that curved upward out of sight. Light from their lanterns danced across the stone. Lyra approached carefully and scanned the surface. This must be the outer wall of the underground structure. Evan placed his hand gently on the stone. It's warm. Lyra touched it too and felt the same. Not hot, not cold. Warm. Like something alive, but not living. Relin stepped closer. Look at this. He pointed to faint glowing lines spreading across the wall. Myra's eyes widened. Those weren't active yesterday. Lyra scanned the lines. Energy pathways. They are carrying power toward the center. Evan suddenly stepped back. Everyone, move away from the wall. Lyra turned sharply toward him. Why? It's changing, he whispered. Something inside just moved. The awakening before Lyra could question him further. The wall pulsed with a soft golden light. Dust lifted gently from the ground. A hum began quiet at first, then stronger, vibrating through the air like a distant voice trying to speak. Relin and Myra stepped back in shock. What is happening? Mira cried softly. Lyra held up a hand. Stay calm. Evan stood still, eyes wide, listening intently. It's trying to communicate. The rhythm it's repeating patterns. Lyra switched her scanner to translation mode. Symbols flashed across the screen, shifting rapidly, struggling to match the rhythm. It is a message, she whispered. From what? Relin asked. Lyra didn't know. The wall trembled lightly under her hand. Suddenly, the energy pathways glowed brighter. The pulse quickened, but still in a calm, steady way. Lyra, Evan whispered. It's opening. Step back, Lyra ordered. The team moved away just as a small circular section of the wall shifted inward. The stone softened into a glowing ring, almost like liquid light. But it didn't open like a door. It revealed a small crystal orb embedded in the wall, glowing softly. What is that? Mira asked. A core unit, Lyra breathed. A power source. Evan stepped closer. Wait. It's not dangerous. Lyra grabbed his arm lightly. How do you know? I can feel it, he said calmly. It's not reacting to us. It's reacting to the energy around us. Lyra looked at him carefully. This was no guess. His senses were reading something the scanner's COULDN to, and Evan slowly extended his hand toward the orb, but didn't touch it tonally, hovered his palm near it. Instantly, the orb brightened. Everyone gasped. It senses you, Lyra said softly. Evan swallowed. It wants something. Or maybe it's trying to show something. Lyra stepped next to him. What do you feel? He closed his eyes. Warmth? And a pull. Like it wants us to understand. Understand what? Relin asked. The orb pulsed again, and the tunnel lit up with faint lines across the ceiling, forming shapes, symbols, patterns. Lyra gasped. It is projecting information. But just as the map began to form clearly, the ground trembled sharply. A strong pulse burst from the orb, most like a warning. The walls shook. Dust rained down. The hum grew louder. Everyone, move back, Lyra ordered. Evan stumbled as the ground shook again. Lyra grabbed his arm to steady him. We need to leave, Mira shouted. Lyra nodded. Retreat now. The orb dimmed, as if exhausted, then slipped back into the wall. The glowing lines faded. The tunnel darkened again. The team ran quickly toward the entrance, the ground trembling behind them. Returning to the academy when they reached the canyon surface, sky above them roared with thunder. Wind whipped across the rocks. Evan bent forward, breathing hard. It wasn't attacking us. It was trying to communicate, but something interrupted it. Lyra looked toward the canyon. Something more powerful? Or something waking faster than expected, Evan replied. Relin spoke nervously. We need to tell the council everything. Yes, Lyra said firmly. Everything. They hurried back to the academy, Students turned and stared as they passed, seeing dust on their uniforms and fear in their eyes. Inside the main hall, Lyra reported everything: the glowing pathways, the message, the orb, the tremors. The council listened in heavy silence. When she finished, Vera spoke quietly. "This structure is not simply awakening. It is reacting to us." Evan stepped forward. "And it's trying to tell us something." The council members exchanged troubled looks. "This changes everything," one of them said. Another added, "We must prepare for whatever comes next." Lyra glanced at Evan. His eyes were filled with worry, but also determination. Something ancient had woken. Something powerful. Something intelligent, and now the Academy would have to face it. The night after the team returned from the canyon was quiet, but the Academy did not rest. Lights stayed on in almost every hall. Teachers walked quickly from room to room, carrying scanners and maps. The council whispered in long meetings. Students watched from a distance, confused and worried. Something had changed. Something deep under the canyon was awake, and everyone could feel it. Lyra stood outside the observatory, looking at the silver sky. The stars were calm and peaceful, but her thoughts were not. She kept replaying the moment when the orb reacted to Evan brightening, as if recognizing him. Why Evan? How did it sense him? What did it want to show? Footsteps approached. Evan appeared, holding a cup of warm tea. "You look tired?" he said gently. "So do you," Lyra replied. Evan smiled a little. "Hard to sleep when an ancient structure tries to talk to you," Lyra nodded. "Tomorrow the council will decide our next move." "Do you know what they want?" Evan asked. Lyra sighed. "Yes, they want us to go back." Evan looked down at his hands. "I guess that was expected." They said, "You are the only one who can understand the signals," Lyra added. "They need you." Evan didn't argue. He already knew. Morning meeting at sunrise. The council called Lyra and Evan to the main chamber. The room felt heavier than usual, filled with maps, readings, worried expressions. One of the council members began. "The structure's energy increased again last night. New light pathways have appeared around the dome." Another added, "We believe it is trying to complete its awakening cycle." Instructor Vera stepped closer. "The orb responded to Evan. This means it may respond again. We need the two of you to go back and make contact." Evan swallowed. "What if it reacts more strongly?" Vera shook his head. "We do not sense any danger. The pulses are steady, almost gentle." Lyra spoke next, her voice firm. "What is our goal?" The council member replied to receive the full message. Whatever the structure is trying to show must be important. We cannot turn away. Lyra and Evan looked at each other. The decision was made. They would return to the canyon. The journey back, Raylan and Mira joined them again as support. Though they would not go inside the tunnel this time. The path down felt both familiar and different. The air was warmer. The ground hummed with a steady pulse. When they reached the lower ridge, Evan stopped and listened. "It's calling," he whispered. Lyra nodded. She could feel it too, a soft thrum in her chest, like a faint heartbeat guiding them. "Be careful," Raylan told them, Mira added, "and come back quickly." "We will," Lyra promised, with lanterns ready. The two of them stepped into the dark tunnel once more. Inside the tunnel, again the tunnel, looked brighter than before. The ancient symbols on the walls glowed faintly, as if someone had polished them during the night. Evan walked slowly. Touching the carvings with gentle fingers, "They feel warm," he said softly. Lyra checked her scanner. "The energy level is double what it was yesterday." After a few minutes, they reached the great curved wall again. This time, the glowing lines were clear and bright, spreading like veins across the stone surface. The hum grew steady, calm, welcoming. Evan stepped forward. "It knows we're here." Lyra nodded. "Let's begin." Evan raised his hand toward the wall. The moment his hand came near the surface, the orb appeared again, glowing with a gentle golden light. The hum deepened, the orb brightened, and then the wall lit up with new patterns. Connection this time, the projection was clearer. Lines of light stretched across the ceiling and walls, forming a giant map of stars. Points of light connected into shapes, circles, spirals, constellations. Evan stared in awe. This is not just a message. It's a record. Lyra stepped closer. A star map? Yes, Evan whispered. A map of where they came from. The projection shifted. A spiral galaxy rotated slowly, with one star system glowing brighter than the rest. Lyra breathed. That must be the origin. The map zoomed in. A small planet appeared. Its surface was covered in oceans, land, and shining structures. Evan's voice trembled slightly. They built this world. The Valari ancestors. They must have used these structures to store their history. Lyra nodded. This place is not a weapon. It's a memory vault. The wall pulsed again. The map changed. Now they saw tall figures, Valari ancestors building great towers of crystal. They saw peaceful cities. They saw glowing pathways, the same kind under the canyon. It's showing us their past. Evan murmured. But then the images shifted. The sky and the projection darkened. The cities dimmed. Something was happening. Lyra's eyes widened. A collapse. Evan touched the wall lightly. They lost their energy source. Their cities began to fade. They built these vaults to save what they could. The last image was clear, one ancestor placing a glowing orb into a chamber, sealing it away for the future. Then the projection faded, and the tunnel returned to dim light, the final pulse. Suddenly, the orb flickered with a different color, soft blue instead of gold. The hum changed as well, becoming slower, gentler. Almost like a goodbye, Evan whispered. It's finishing its message. The orb began projecting one last image, a symbol neither of them recognized. It looked like two shapes joining, forming a bridge. Lyra scanned it quickly. What is this symbol? Evan listened to the pulse. Unity, connection. The wall pulsed once more. Strong, clear. Evan stepped closer. It says, two worlds must understand each other. Two sides must work together. Only then the energy can balance again. Lyra breathed softly. So this is not just history. It's a warning. Evan nodded. Yes, a warning and a hope. The orb dimmed. The pulse faded. The wall returned to silence. The message was complete. Returned to the surface when Lyra and Evan stepped out of the tunnel. The sun had broken through the clouds. A warm beam of light touched the canyon floor. Relin rushed toward them. Are you both okay? Mira's eyes were wide. What happened? The ground stopped shaking suddenly. Lyra smiled faintly. We received the full message, Evan added. It wasn't danger. It was knowledge. A reminder. They climbed back toward the academy. Students gathered to watch them pass, whispering quietly inside the council hall. Lyra explained everything. The structure showed us its origin. It is a vault to protect history. The message is about unity, two different worlds working together. Evan continued. It responded to us because we approached with calm and respect. It chose to trust us. The council members listened carefully, their expressions softening. Instructor Varys finally spoke. This discovery will change how we understand our ancestors, another council member added, and it shows the value of cooperation between species. Lyra glanced at Evan. The council wasn't just talking about ancient history. They were talking about them too, a Valari girl, a human boy. Two individuals who had broken old rules, trusted each other, and uncovered the truth together. A new beginning that evening. The academy held a quiet ceremony near the starlit courtyard. Students gathered, teachers stood proudly, and lights glowed softly. Lyra and Evan were called to the front. Varys spoke kindly. Because of your courage, patience, and trust in each other, you've helped us understand a piece of our past that was almost lost forever. Looked at Evan, and you proved that the rule of distrust is not needed anymore. Soft smiles spread through the crowd. Lyra felt her chest warm with pride. Evan felt the same for the first time. Both Valari and humans stood side by side without fear. A gentle breeze blew through the courtyard. Carrying the feeling of a new beginning, final lines the ancient vault had delivered its message. The canyon had fallen quiet. But in the academy, a new chapter had started. A chapter built on unity. A chapter built on understanding. A chapter built on trust. Between an alien girl and a human who refused to give up. Their story was only the beginning.